Assalamu alaikum. This is the third try that I am voicing over to upload something of instant interest to me on YouTube video. This has been very convenient for me since I can just go on talking and it records. And if I can unload it, will also goes in a permanent sort of records. Today is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2013. I had just seen a BBC documentary in which Razia Iqbal interviews a Pulitzer Prize fiction book writer called Richard Bond or Richard Brand or something like that. I am just forgetting. Problem with memory, short memory now. Now that I am 76 or going to be 76 next February 25th. Anyway, though, it was very interesting to me as he has given you so many points that for me at least were in sharp contrast to my own thinking about writing my own book of reminiscences which were more autobiographical. The first thing that he says, and that I found very in contrast to my writing, is that since he is a dyslexia prone, his thinking and words come slowly in his mind, and when he writes it, he gets time to fashion, refashion, edit, improvise, and make each and every sentence interesting so that his writers could go on to the next sentence. In Urdu Shairi we will call it Award, not Ahmad. I mean, there is nothing which is naturally coming forth, but a poet has to struggle to find, to improvise and fashion a single couplet. Anyway, that was to me an handicap, but Razia Iqbal presented it as one of his hallmark and main achievement of his writing, that he could write very elaborate and very chiseled sentences. One, I have myself been writing for about now 10 years, starting with the letters to editors, and sometimes with articles, sometimes commentary, but it's all reactive. I react to the printed word that I read in newspapers and magazines, and also to TV viewing. As soon as I get some idea, immediately I try to go to the computer and type out maybe 100 or 200 words, and I never look back. I never edit. There are so many mistakes that creep in. I have no time and no inclination to go through it, because if I wait another moment, it will never go. So immediately I send it off. This is one difference that I found between Richard and me. Second thing he was mentioning when she asked that why he left Mississippi and settled upper United States. He said his parents went to Mississippi when he was 2, and he did his schooling in Mississippi. She asked him whether you had been witness to the turmoil that the South had been going through during your stay on that? He says, yes, I was very much there, and I did find it's very dirty, very evil, very disgusting, very turbid. That is what he is used first. And but I was a small boy, and I had never had the courage to speak out, even my inner circle. And I was more like going on with the crowd that I was with, my own white society. Though in the feelings I had always felt that there is something more that should be considered in that divided part of United States than just trying to belong to one's own half of the nation. Then he shifted to Michigan University for education, and there he could make out that Mississippi was not the best of the time that he spent, or he would like to remember as his childhood memories. He never cherished it, and he tried to be completely away from the whole experience of Mississippi. He even changed his name temporarily and never spoke about the dark scene that he has been witnessing in Mississippi area. Though on questioning, he did say that I still take Mississippi to be my home, and I usually go for it. But I kept my writing experiences completely separate from that sorted society. My own experience is a bit in complete contrast. I loved Bandra, I love India, and I want to, when I finished my BCom degree in Sydenham, I was thinking of entering into some business, as of course, being a student of economics and commerce, I was more geared for industry and business rather for any literary, academic, or service job, because I could make out that if I got into an employment here in India, definitely I will always be get my life tied down to that service, and I will never have a chance to have another life. So, in contrast to Richard, I think whenever I try to write not my usual commentaries and letters to the editor and all that, I try to revive my memories of Bandra. I was in 1959 appointed as an accountant in Kuwait, and I remember when I reached Kuwait at dusk time in a passenger ship, that from that to a local country craft called Dhau reached the shore, and within short distance I was ushered into a room that was supposed to be my lodging place, and the man who from the company came to receive me, I left for the job, and he says, we finish at about 8:30 and I'll come back. That was the staff house of Ashraf Brothers, the company where I was supposed to be taking up as an accountant. As soon as Akram left and I was alone in the room, I cried. I cried copiously, and I felt this kind of exile is not for human beings. It was forced on me. If God has willed, I could have made a living even in India, whatever may be, at whatever stage. So, as I used to say often, and my daughter-in-law still remembers now, when I said that all 30 years that is spent in Kuwait, I have always longed to be back home. So my memories of my native place was not so dreary as that of Richard, who had blocked all his childhood memories of Mississippi as a dark period. Another contrast I found was about Canada. When Razia Iqbal asked him, why Canada? Now, before I tell about Richard's own explanation about why he liked Canada, I should naturally would like my own idea of Canada to bring up the contrast. First thing is that Canada is not India. Second, it is supposed to be very cold, and even Kuwait, which is not in the supposed to be in the Arctic areas, it was very cold for me, and because of the cold climate, I had developed joint pains. When I came down Bombay in 1990, I had at least brought with me the joint pains over the period of time. As soon as the winter started here, I used to cover myself with a blanket, and that's it. So cold season for me was something a dark continent, and irony of it all that my own son went out there with a lot of enthusiasm, and his enthusiasm was surpassed by my own daughter-in-law Salma. And Salma, his father and all, though his father Aslam Mukhtar had a business here, had a mind that we should relocate to Canada and have a different now family there with our own people making up a community. He is a Salafi Al Hadith, and it seems that in Canada they all gather from all over, and there is quite a good presence there in certain areas. So Aslam Mukhtar, my son's father-in-law, seems to have impressed on him that you can go there, migrate there, and have a good life. He has another daughter married with a Salafi family from Chennai. He encouraged them also to go over there, and they went. And luckily, Sheja got good opening with Bullet company, good salary, up to 100,000 Canadian dollars a year, and he was able to get a 4-bedroom cottage type of house on mortgage. For me, this was a very bright spot as far as he was concerned as a future. But still, I thought this is running away from your own home, from your own land. Now, twice my wife also had been there for a stretch of about 2 3 months each time. And after her second visit, she is so tired of the place that she keeps comparing Canada to Bombay, where life is so lively, there are so much activities, there are so many people, so many things happening. And her experience in Canada was that she was shut up in a house, bleak house, not a single person moving about even from the open windows. It's a very lonely place, as she thought. Though at weekends, a few families gathered together and tried to create a life. But overall, since after all, both my daughter-in-law Salma and my wife remain at home as homemakers, and they were very much feeling lonely. So this time around, when she came back, she says, "I'm not going to Canada." Now, in all contrast to this, our personal experience about what the image of my personal experience of Canada, I found Richard writing this book with the title Canada, and he remembers that even though he had lived in the US all his life, whenever he crossed over the border to Canada, he felt liberated. He felt he's come out of a prison, and Canada was a free place without any hang-ups, without the ugly history, without fighting, without violence, without people gnawing at each other. And he said this was a free country, liberal, very tolerant. Lots of people have a completely different mindset than that of America. This was very refreshing to me. This is the first time a very logical and reasoned approach was given to me by an American, and who thought he preferred Canada to America. So this was a kind of a revelation for me, and when I thought for a moment, I found that his assessment of the two countries and comparison was very correct and astute, since he has lived there and he has witnessed the turmoil in America, and the turmoil that America is inflicting on the world is in sharp contrast to some kind of relaxed life in Canada. But of course, Canada, though a big country, is a cold country. Cold in the sun. For those who have been now accustomed to the cold, they like it and they have no problem. For those who have memories of a hot country, hot climate country like India, I think somehow in the back of the mind they keep comparing the two countries. I think for Shuja also, Canada would have been a very liberating country, because he went through years some of very bad experiences in life. When he was to join college, I had failed and I had come back without that money, and I wasn't able to fund his education. And when he finished his degree, civil, he went to work for a construction company here, and they were They placed him on a site in Bandra West where they were building a diamond market, and the work was very tough, very dirty type of. He was to be all soaked up in cement and all these things whole day, and he used to come take a bath. And he was dog tired, and he used to pass out immediately. Food also was not, I mean, in a way, kind of regularized for him, because by the time in the night he was not able to eat full meal of his choice. He could not get into an MBA course in Razia College, which is just in the same lane that um, my residence at Seacroft, Shirley Rajan Road. As the principal asked him while giving admission that he should bring in 2 lakh rupees. To me, who has presently come down from Kuwait, where there is in my 30 years never any occasion that somebody should ask me any underhand dealings, black money, or what do you call it, corrupt donation. I revolted, even though I did have cash, but I thought that now, since I have no income, I have to be more careful about my finances. This 2 lakhs are for the family. If I give it over to him, I will have a very difficult time for all of the family. I did not give, and he did not join the MBA, and that was really heartbreaking for him, because he kept comparing himself to his elder brother Faiz, who had his life like on a served to him on a silver platter. He started as an undergraduate in Amherst, UK. 6 years he did masters, and when he came down immediately he was picked up as a young groom by a very well placed wealthy family, and his wedding reception at Worley's very tony stadium, having a wedding in a stadium, you can imagine such a big crowd was there. About 15,000 people were there to attend his wedding, and each sitting we had about 200 tables in the men's area. Ladies were separate, veg was separate, and that 200 tables seated 6 people. And till the time we departed, at least they had 4 sittings. So you can imagine how many people must have eaten, and there was how it was served. It was very mind-boggling. So much so that my neighbor, a Kashmiri, who died in a bomb blast, Ganju, since he had come there and he was surprised to see the crowd, he told me, "What is this?" I said, "Don't blame me, this is not my crowd. This is the people who came from the bride side." So happened that the Farid, my Farida's father, Chaudhry, he had a tin container making factory, and he had employed about 500 people from his own village in UP. So naturally all these people were available for management of the wedding, and the invitees were maybe people of all villages around where he lived. that had come down to Bombay on a living. Anybody was there to enjoy an evening of free food, lavish food. Now all these things had been witnessed by Shuja, and he felt that my father has given me a short, what do you call it, lacking. He has not given me equal treatment that he gave to the elder son. And my excuse was that while the elder son was in education stage, I was in business in Kuwait, money was rolling in, and I had no problem even thinking. I had bombarded him with the checks, his dresses, and he went twice to see him and all that. While in his case, when he grew up, I was back in 1990, a month before Saddam invaded Kuwait, and all my three businesses, one the Khaja store of 25 years, another a joint venture with my partners with Habib Bank Zurich, Habib Exchange Company, which was 20 years old, and another joint venture with a bank with the same Kuwaiti partner's son called Canara Exchange. That lasted for 8 years. As soon as Saddam entered Kuwait, seems everything was destroyed. Both these joint ventures were thrown out, and I had no. When I came down, I felt this is the end of my exile. And in a way, I thanked Almighty that by any means that He has answered my prayers, and I am back on my soil. So you can imagine that there is so much contrast between my thinking of my homeland and Richard's evaluation of America and his preference for Canada. So I would say these experiences, whether it belong to Richard or Shuja, both depended on their personal experiences, and they found their home country to be too taxing, too tense, too violent, too aggressive, too demanding, and they wanted peace, and they found peace in Canada. So this was another thing that I picked up from that interview. Later I was thinking what he wrote and what I would be writing, or I would wish to write. He told Razia Iqbal that my characters are all fictionalized, and I see to it that my personal life is kept apart from my writing. Now all along, whenever I was thinking of writing a book, I had so much full of my own human experiences that I wanted to put them down on paper, whether somebody read or did not read, whether they were printable or non-printable. After it is my life, and there were, in moral terms, maybe I had taken a lot of bad turns deliberately, but I enjoyed my life the way a sinner's life, you can say, and the religion and the real life seems to be always running parallel. I used to have one feet here and another feet there, like two boats. So my memories are so deep, so poignant, and so full of life that I wanted to put that in these words, even though it was more in the genre of some sex episodes. But that was my life, and I thought I have a right to at least write down something, whether somebody read or not, in contrast to what Richard wrote. Then he had another thing on his mind, and that was that whatever he's writing, he had to have an audience in mind, and that's why he has crafted his novel with the sole intention of keeping his readers enchanted, charmed, completely tied up till they finish the entire book as soon as possible. And an example of how he did it was that when he started his novel Canada, Razia Iqbal complained that your first sentence is giving away your entire book's plot. And you said that you are going to write about how his parents were involved in a bank robbery and how some murders in the family had been his main memories on which the book is going to be written. Razia said people always introduce something in the back, and you started with the announcing the very gist of what is going coming. And he said that is actually my deliberate attempt to start with something, and people will read and keep reading till they come to the bank robbery, and they'll have to read and read and read and they think till they come to the murder part. So it's a kind of enticement that forces them to read. A very artificial way of making of a novel. Anyway, that was his craft, if not art. It was quite an experience reading it, and I thought I will have to learn something. Even now, at the age of 76, I feel I should go for a course of creative writing in America. If I could get some chance, some free scholarships or something. I don't know whether I have got a talent or not, but I do write and write and write, and I have got some experiences which I think India coming now into an age of its own, and where the Muslim society is still not been even scrapped on the surface as to how they feel, how they live their lives, how their emotions and how their aspirations are there, what their frustrations are there. These are going to be subject of writings in future, but why not make a start? And that audience I think will be more in America or Europe rather than India. So if I write, I should be writing an audience in mind, that is the West, who will be curious, who will have some curiosity about life in India, and that too life of a Muslim in India. Also my Kuwait experience of 30 years is to full of experiences of practically everything, and if I can just go on dictating it like I am doing it, possibly I'll remember things by and by. My book should be a continued interview with somebody, so that the interviewer should be asking questions and I'll go back into my mind and come out with memories. Now I think it's a 35-minute long talk, and I would like to see whether this is properly uploaded, so that later on I can at least have some incentive to try again.